Good morning, people. Zen here. It is an overcast Tuesday morning, 7:30. We've just finished 2 record days of heat in sunny Southern California. I'm in North County, Zone 10A, north of San Diego. Saturday, it hit 113 degrees. Sunday, it hit 115 degrees. Monday, it hit about 95, 98. And now today, we are going to see the aftermath. I figured I'd do my summer wrap-up tour. So we're going to get my avocado tree uncovered. We're going to take down the shading, or the shade cloth that's covering my ailing fruit punch mango. And we'll check on the rest of the stuff I got growing. And we'll do that in a bit. Maybe I'll wait for the sun to come up. What the heck, I just uncovered my avocado, so I thought we'd just start with this one. 2 years ago, we had a record heat wave in July. It hit 116 degrees. I had a Lamb Haas avocado tree in here, which I did not shade protect. It was about 1 year in the ground, and that 116 degree day cooked my avocado. The actual top of the avocado turned around. It was that beaten down by the heat that the top of the avocado just completely bent over, and by wintertime that avocado tree died. So it was killed by the heat and the frost because I did not properly protect it. This time I took care to shade protect this avocado, which was recovering from transplant shock. As you can see, if you look at my last avocado update, it was looking a lot better. It got pretty beat up by the heat. Of course, some of the leaves were already burnt due to the salt in the water, and those leaves got even more cooked, and you could see it dropped quite a few leaves too. But the tree is alive. The new growth is wilted and damaged, but this tree has not doubled over. It looks like it needs a bit of water, so I just gave it about 2 gallons. The good thing about this raised bed is I can water the hell out of this avocado, and there's good drainage, so I'm not worried about root rot. So the days preceding the heat wave, I watered this avocado quite well to make sure that it would hold up during the heat. And as you can see, it still got beat to hell, but it is still alive, and if I protect it this winter against any frosts, hopefully it'll grow back stronger, and we'll see how it fares next year. But I just gave it some water, so I want to see if it'll spring back. The good thing about avocados is you can tell when they need water because their leaves will droop all the way down. And when you give them water, they actually spring out. So when this tree is effectively watered and happy, I know because the leaves just stick straight out. And right now it's a bit droopy, so I gave it some water. I want to see if it'll recover by this afternoon, which is when I will continue with the rest of my tour. But right now, just wanted to show you what my avocado looks like, having uncovered it, given it some water. Let's see if it springs a little bit back more into life. But the good thing is the tree didn't die during the heat wave. All right. Okay, so the entire day was overcast yesterday, recovering from the extreme heat we've had here in Southern California. So I thought I'd just continue this the next day, and thought this is pretty indicative or a great example of how this summer has gone. Something promising, something you thought that you would get to enjoy, but ultimately ends up being nothing getting going on. Rabbits snapped that vine, So say goodbye to that one remaining watermelon that I had. I had 3 other watermelon vines going on here. The rabbits all ate them up. I had a host of honeydew plants surrounding this mango tree. The rabbits ate that all as well. So it's just basically been an experiment, since I'm too lazy to put up any rabbit fencing. An experiment to see what the rabbits will leave alone. And so far, I'm relegated to summer squash, which I'm actually growing some more here because this was my vegetable patch, and I had a bunch of collard greens that I grew from seed that I transplanted here. The rabbits would continually eat all the fresh leaves it put through, and so they were never growing or getting any height. So if I were to transplant some more tree collards out here, I'd probably want to get some fairly sizable ones so that the rabbits couldn't eat up all the leaves. So I've tried eggplant here, I've tried spinach, I've tried bok choy, all the leafy green vegetables the rabbits will just chew up. So I'm relegated to tomatoes, peppers, and squash so far. I thought I was going to get away with honeydew, but they ended up eating all my honeydew vines. And so, yeah. All right, let's start up with the summer wrap-up. If you looked at my last video, I was all jazzed about having a personal beehive, which I soon abandoned that idea. I pulled this urban worm bag out to expose it to the elements so that the bees would leave, which they did. I found out that it is illegal to have a beehive on your property here in Escondido. Shouldn't have amateur nobodies tending to bees anyways. If you don't know what you're doing, you can get yourself in some major trouble. If they were to become Africanized, and if they were to go on and attack my neighbors and all that kind of stuff, I would be held liable and responsible. So my idea of having my own beehive, I soon abandoned that thought. So yeah, that's what remains of the beehive that I used to have. Here is my grapefruit tree. In addition to the record heat we had this summer, we actually had record rainfall over the winter. Something like we normally get 12 inches of rain during the year, and I think we ended up with like 18 inches. But the result of all that water was that the nutrients got leached from a lot of my trees, and they ended up getting chlorotic. If you can take a look at this pomegranate bush, you see all the yellowing leaves. That also happened to my grapefruit tree, and I started treating it, but I did it too late. So a number of the leaves yellowed up, dried up, and then dropped down. So you can see all the leaves that this tree has lost, and it also dropped most of its blooms, and it's only holding a few fruit, when normally a good season I can pull like 20, 30 grapefruit from this tree, and now I'm probably going to end up with about 6 or 8. But at least the tree is still alive. I pulled back the mulch. I put some organic fertilizer down, and then I also did some foliar feeding with some chelated iron. Got some of the coloring back, so I halted the leaf drop. So that is my grapefruit tree. This is my Pluot tree, which I thought I was going to be harvesting Pluots off this year. This is the second year it's been in the ground. It had a profuse number of blossoms. Unfortunately, I didn't have the right pollinator. I had only put in this pollinator this year, and it had a limited number of blooms on it. As you can see, I marcotted it. I air layered it and took the top off this tree. So this is a Dapple Dandy, which is supposed to bloom at the same time as this Flavor King Pluot. But I had a beehive sitting right next to my grapefruit tree. with bees in it, of course, and they never went near any of the flowers on my pluot. I would never see any bees on it. They would all flock over to these rosemary bushes with the purple flowers. So, no, not one single piece of fruit held. So no pluots this year, but hopefully next year we'll have some. This is my UC 157 heat resistant asparagus that's been 2 years in the ground and hasn't even put forth an edible sized spear yet. I'm getting all these skinny, lanky, stringy spears that come up. And actually there's a section where I put 2 crowns in and nothing's come up at all, so they're probably duds. But this UC 157 asparagus is a wash. I mean, for it being in the ground 2 years and me starting off with supposedly 2-year, 3-year crowns, and this is all the production I'm getting. This is probably a bad spot for them. But eventually, hopefully, they'll start producing some edible-sized spears. So, nix on the asparagus, nix on the grapefruit, nix on the pluots. At least my avocado survived the heat wave, 115 degrees. Sunday, 113 degrees. Saturday, it got cooked, but it's alive. I kept it well hydrated, and I put a shade cloth over it. So the avocado tree is alive. That's a plus. I guess anything that I can keep alive is a plus. Even though I'm not getting any fruition out of it, literally no fruition, as evidenced by this lone watermelon. Pomegranates. We've got a good crop of pomegranates coming in. Haven't been too badly burned by the sun. They're starting to ripen. So we got the pomegranates, and here is my fruit punch mango, or half of my fruit punch mango tree, as I had to lop the top half off. If you look at my other mango update, you can see that the top, after I transplanted it, probably transplant shock took place, and it wasn't able to support the upper branches. I'm thinking all this new growth in the bottom probably drained the tree of energy to support the upper branches, especially after a transplant. At first I thought maybe I was underwatering this tree, but I've been giving it water pretty much every 3 days. I have a moisture meter, and every time I check this mound after 2 or 3 days, it is dry. So the drainage is really well here, and I watered the hell out of it during the heat wave, but the top still died. So I'm thinking it's just a matter of transplant shock and the fact that it wasn't prepared to support the trees. I know that sometimes when you transplant trees, people often take off branches and such to accommodate the root system. But this tree is putting forth new growth, and these leaves look fine. So as long as it stays alive, and I can keep it alive through the winter, that's a plus. So we got a plus here. This is my new Moro Blood Orange tree, which the rabbits also have been taking a liking to. I had 3 beautiful new branches like this that shot out, and the rabbits just chewed them off. So I'm probably going to have to put some kind of protection around this tree. I'm just going to wait some more. If they start attacking it again and chew it down to a nubbing, I'm definitely going to have to protect this thing. But this is my Moro Blood Orange tree. My blueberry bushes survived the heat. I placed them underneath the persimmon tree for shading, and they took the heat in stride. no problems whatsoever. And this is my Fuyu Persimmon tree. This is a light bearing year. This tree has issues with alternate bearing. I have videos about me thinning the blooms on this. Like I said, the first year I had this tree, it only held 6 fruit. And so I thinned the blooms last year, and this is an alternate bearing year. And you can see how many fruit this tree managed to hold, even though they are smaller than they normally are, or smaller than they are during a good productive year. And you could see a lot of the fruit got sunburnt damage. Good thing is you don't really eat the skin off of persimmon, so it still should be nice and sweet and juicy inside, hopefully. But you can see the fruit. It's rather small, but there's a hell of a lot more than just 6 on the tree this year. So thinning blooms does work if you have problems with alternate bearing years. So this is my Fuyu persimmon tree. So that's kind of a positive. Another thing is not a volunteer. What is this? Suckers. This is a persimmon tree sucker that I allowed to continue to grow and see if it'll develop into its own tree. So then I'll have 2 persimmon trees. Here is my Acerola cherry, Barbados cherry bush. It grew pretty well. I was excited because it had flowers for the first time, but they didn't hold, no fruit. And here is my poor ailing Thompson seedless flame grapevine. It held fruit at the beginning of the year, but then dropped them all. So yeah, at the beginning of summer, I was so jazzed. I was like, I'm going to get Pluots this year, and I'm going to have Barbados cherries this year. I'm going to have grapes this year. I'm going to have watermelon this year. And also I was excited because this Mandarin Orange tree finally held some fruit. And I counted about 10 oranges on this thing. Look how many actually held on to the end of the summer. Damn, I can't even find it anymore. Don't tell me it dropped. There. My one tangerine orange. It held on to 1 fruit. So, yeah, that isn't good. Volunteer San Marzano tomato bush that I'm growing over here. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's my Manila Mango. Didn't shade protect it at all. Took the heat in stride, no problems. New growth coming out. Didn't shade protect it at all. Shows no heat stress. Took the 115 degree temperatures, no problems. Also, the fruit punch over there, no heat damage showing. And I also have a 1-year seedling teat in a pot growing on my porch, which I left outside. No damage whatsoever. So mangoes can take heat. They don't even bat an eyelink. An eyelash. Let's try to say eye wink or something. They don't even bat an eyelash at the heat. So I'm not even worried about my mangoes anymore as far as shade protecting them during the summer. They can hack it. Whereas avocados, of course, you have to be a little more careful about. And of course, here's the jujube tree. Completely prolific, always reliable, completely loaded with jujubes. I've already harvested about half of the jujubes off this tree, and there's still plenty more drying up on the tree. Of course, I've been picking the ones to eat that are semi-ripe, right when they start to turn. And then I also enjoy them when they're dried up and chewy. But yeah. And the rabbits have been having their fair share. I was hoping that I could grow enough jujubes to keep them happy so they leave everything else alone. But these damn rabbits, I don't know what I'm going to do about them. I guess I'm just going to have to start putting up some protective netting or fencing. Either that or become bloodthirsty and start killing them or something somehow. Oh yeah, finally something positive. My 2-in-1 pear tree, which is a Bartlett pear tree and a Chojuro Asian pear, finally fruited. This is the second year it's been in the ground. It's got one Asian pear it's held on to, and then a bunch of Bartlett pears. So I'm going to have pears for the first time this year. So that's a plus. The guava tree is growing guavas. Never have an issue with this guava tree. It's always happy. Never have to really fertilize it. Just water it moderately. Never any issues. It's always healthy. Always putting forth a bunch of guavas. So we'll be juicing up some guavas and making guava smoothies come winter. My poor ailing apple tree is still producing some apples, so that's a plus. The fact that it's still alive at this point. And of course my dragon fruit is growing nicely, and for the first time it is holding on to fruit. And I think I saw another fruit. Yeah, starting off growing another fruit here. So that's a positive. And of course I have my little happy crop, which I'll be doing a separate video on, detailing my upcoming harvest. They've been doing well, except for 3 of them actually died from heat stroke, if that's what you can call it. I don't think I watered them enough. So I started chopping off the dried up branches and leaves and processing them. So I mean, you know, they ended up getting harvested early and being dried up early, but yeah, what can you do? So I had 3 plants that actually just gave up during the heat wave. They just pretty much dried up, shriveled up, dried up, and died. But I've got plenty others to go with, plus my seeded female, which is on the porch. Speaking of porch, let's go take a look over there. Alright, here's some of the stuff that I'm growing on the porch. My fig tree finally fruited, and I harvested a handful of figs off of this tree for the first time, which I enjoyed quite a bit. Very happy about figs. I've never had a fresh fig before. This year I did, and I enjoyed it quite well. So this took the heat and stride. All of its older leaves completely dried off and started falling off, but they were leaves that this tree was ready to drop anyways, and the newer growth has no heat damage. So the figs took the heat in stride. My dragon plant got cooked. As you can see, the dried up leaves, they were all, had a full, nice head of leaves, all perky, sticking up. And then after the heat wave, you can see the ones that just slumped over, and they won't recover. Dragon plant, once the leaves get damaged and they droop down, they will never perk back up again. So I'm just going to have to yank those and grow out some more leaves. There's one that I rooted. This dragon plant had 2 tops on it, and one broke off, and so I managed to actually root it in a pot, so it's becoming its own dragon plant. Oh yeah, this is my 1-year-old Haas seedling. I actually had to take this in around noon the first day, Saturday, 113 degrees. The leaves started shriveling up and wilting, so I didn't want this plant to die, so I actually pulled it in, and I kept it inside during the 115 degree day the next day. So this survived, but it probably would not have if I had left it out for both days. Whereas my Keat seedling, look at this seedling. Look how awesome it is. Look at the branching structure. I pulled this out of a worm bin after it had a stem poking up, and the top, which was growing leaves, had completely molded away, rotted away, and so it was effectively topped inside the worm bin. So I pulled the seed out, planted it in a pot, and because the top of the original stem died, it sprouted out multiple branches and stems. So it's growing like a bush, which is pretty cool. But I left this thing out here for both days, and no problems whatsoever. Mangoes are completely, well, not completely, but they're quite heat resistant, whereas avocados are very sensitive, as you can see with this one. And of course, Acerola Barbados cherries flourish in the heat. This one over here took the heat in stride. See if I can navigate this without falling on my ass. Here's my Barbados cherry. This one has not flowered yet, but it's growing nicely out here, and I only water it every once in a while when I remember to. Unfortunately, the pomegranate that I rooted and planted here is constantly attacked by something that's chewing up its branches and leaves, but this one's still alive, so hopefully it will amount to something. And then we'll end up my summer wrap-up on my beautiful Loquat tree. This tree I never have to water. It just manages to find water somehow, some way. I don't fertilize it. I don't do anything to it except for pick lovely loquats off of it during the winter months. So that's it. This is Zen. This has been my summer wrap-up. Hope everybody is doing well and being safe. Take care, everybody. Cheers.